Welcome to the Money Manifestation Mastery podcast with your host, Lara Waldman, where we talk all things money. Big money, big purpose, big power. Waking up your wealth for heart-centered business owners and entrepreneurs. A very warm welcome to today's conversation, Channeling in Your Business with Kahreela An-ra. We are blessed to be welcomed by Kahreela and her beautiful wisdom today. Kahreela is an internationally recognized channel and alchemist healer. She is the creator of the course Channeling and Connection and has taught thousands of people across the globe to use channeling to activate their path. Through her company, Starlight Temple, Kahreela offers regular courses, ceremonies, and sacred travel adventures that help people awaken to the divine conversation of their lives so they can align, live magically, and fulfill their highest purpose. Welcome, Kahreela. So lovely to have you join us again.
Thank you so much. I am so happy and excited to be here. This is my favorite subject of all time.
I am so excited too. Kahreela and I were having a little giggle about the fact that I haven't actually really talked about some of the things we're going to talk about today publicly, which was that I have channeled in my business. I channel everything I do in my business. I haven't really talked about it before. And so we were laughing that I'm going to out myself today in today's conversation as the master channel herself comes and talks to us all about channeling, and how we can use this incredible skill or ability to create in our business. And turns out you've been doing the same thing. Am I right, Kahreela?
My entire business is channeled. I don't know if it's because, I am very much like what we were saying is that loads of people we know channel their business, and that it's actually a more common thing than I think a lot of people realize. But for me, maybe it's because I teach channeling and I'm kind of known as a channel. Whenever I don't channel my business, it doesn't work. Only the things that I channel are that's what works in my business.
Oh my God, I so relate. Anytime I've sort of invested in like some kind of marketing strategy or some kind of technique that's not in alignment with my channel, it has not worked and has actually left me really, really stressed. And when I channel in, it works. And it doesn't make any logical sense.
And, very often I'm like, really? My guys will be like, do this. And I'm like, really? And then it works. And like you say, I invest in a big funnel thing. If anything, my business buckles against it. Yeah. My business really doesn't like that stuff. I've got a new phrase at the moment. I'm like, you don't need to do marketing, you need to do magic.
Nice. Magical marketing channeled in. So for anyone listening who doesn't know what channeling is, should we just start with the basics? Like, what is channeling?
Channeling is actually quite a broad word. It's an umbrella word that covers a lot of amazing and beautiful things. To put it really simply, channeling is being a channel for energy to pass through. And you can actually channel many different things. So people associate channeling with channeling spirit guides, which absolutely is something that I do and I use, and I love my spirit guides and I'm very grateful for them. And they are amazing business mentors and coaches and apparently marketing experts. But also, you can also channel your heart, you can channel your body, you can channel your business, you know, you can actually channel the soul of your business, the spirit of your business. You can channel Mother Earth. So channeling is being in conversation with, you know, it's being able to speak to something, spirit, heart, the business, Mother Earth.
Thank you so much for explaining that. And I'm curious to know, how did you get into channeling? Could you tell us a little story about what got you into this game in the first place?
So firstly, I would say channeling is a birthright, and everybody can channel. There's a real myth in the world of channeling that it is a gift that some people have. Channeling is as much your birthright as breathing. And I, like most people, was channeling without realizing it. So one of the things that most people find out when they're learning to channel is they're like, oh, I was already doing that. So I was channeling as a healer. I don't really believe you can heal if you're not, you know, when you're healing, energy is passing through you. So you're being a channel for energy to pass through you. It's a type of channeling. And when I was doing healings, sometimes messages were coming through for people and things like that. But I didn't really have the language. Like, I didn't actually know the word channeling, definitely didn't really understand about guides. And what happened, my story is quite unmagical in a way. What happened is I met channels and they were doing really amazing types of channeling, like direct voice channeling. And I was just, oh, that's so cool. I want to be able to do that. And so I learned. And really, it was that unmagical. There was a bit of magic. The teacher at the time, my favorite teacher at the time, wasn't teaching channeling at the time that I wanted to learn. Her name's Lara. She's one of the best channels in the world. And at that time, she was just like, I'm done with teaching channeling. There's too much involved in it. I'm not doing it. And I was begging her to teach me to channel. And she recommended a book called Opening to Channel. And I ordered the book. And before the book arrived, my guides had started talking to me. Because it was like I'd given the permission, or I'd committed to it, and the channel had opened up. But then after that, she also gave a CD of her teaching to channel to me and some friends, and we literally every week practiced the exercises in this CD. We'd get together and we'd practice, and that's how we learned to channel.
That's so cool. So cool. So what would you say, like, is really sort of, I guess, the sort of magic unknown around channeling in business in particular? Because I think, like you said, a lot of people are doing it maybe consciously, but doing it without even realizing. And I feel like this is like a secret sauce ingredient to success that people don't realize. The kind of magic that's going on in the success of people's businesses or finances or life. Like, what would you like to speak into around that, the kind of the behind the scenes?
So actually, it's beyond business. Your channeling, your divine conversation helps you with your path. Your business, that's part of your path. But your path is what your soul is here to do, and what your soul is here to give to the world. And I don't know about you, and I'd love to hear, Lara, but like, for me, absolutely the best things that have ever happened in my business have been because I've done the right thing at the right time, not because I've done loads and loads of work. It's like the best things that have ever happened to my business have been to do with alignment. And me, and some of it has been so magical, you know. I can share some stories if you want, but what I feel channeling helps you to do is do the right thing at the right time for the right person to see it, for the door to open, for those things that we might have called luck a few generations ago. They're the things that channeling helps you most with, because especially if you're connected to your guides will pester you. If your personality self has overridden something that you're meant to do, and you're in contact and in trust and in connection with your guides will be like, do it, don't not do it. And they'll help you align and do the things that really, really, really are the things that you have soul contracted to do, that your soul is aligning with something else. And you miss those boats, and it can be really impactful that you miss those boats in not a good way, actually. I'm just thinking of some of the things that have happened in my path, and if they hadn't have happened, how different my business would be now,
So I'm feeling all the beautiful brains and like that personality self, and the kind of the almost like that inner battle that happens between the that channeled information versus, like you call it, the personality self. Shall we talk about like what's the difference between that part of you that's channeling information and what you call the personality self? Is that our human self? Like what is the difference between when we're like making decisions from our head versus our heart? Or how would you describe the difference where we contract against that magic or that channeled wisdom?
The personality self is in survival mode. The higher self, or the heart open self, or the channel, you cannot channel in survival mode. Your channel is off when you're in survival mode. And so when you're channeling, you're naturally coming into soul mode. And the thing is the decisions we make in survival mode are not necessarily the most aligned decisions for our business. The soul mode, your spirit guides, the perspectives that you can get from your channel, they are bird's eye view. And so sometimes, for example, I've got an event coming up that like my survival mode self was like, no. My survival mode was like, it's just more work. It's not, I'm doing it because my guides have told me to do it. And I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure that if they've told me to do it, there's somebody that I'm going to meet there, or a door is going to open. It's important that I go. Whereas my personality self, my survival mode self, too busy, not enough money, all of the reasons why we don't do things or do things that are connected to survival.
So interesting, because I don't know about you, but I find that my survival part of myself is a lot stronger sometimes, a lot more shouty. And I have to create a practice around and create space to tap into my channeled wisdom. Like what do you find with people? Because it feels to me like most human beings, we kind of default into survival mode if we're not doing this consciously. Like what's your experience of that?
I believe the reason most human beings default into survival mode is because essentially the way that modern life is it's kind of switched off our magic. We're all born quite connected and magical, and then school and society kind of turns it off in us. And then you feel very on your own in this big, scary thing that is life. And so, of course, you're going to be in survival mode, because survival mode is you not feeling like you belong, and not feeling like you're supported. And so in a way, connection and guides and living in connection, living in magic is how to not be in survival mode. And yet I also hear you that we have to. So how I teach channeling is it's very technique based, because there is technique to every single type of channeling. There is technique, and you can teach the energy mechanics, that you can train the energy body to do any type of channeling. Even opening your heart, open your heart is a thing that is spoken about in all sorts of circles of the wellness industry. But I've met so many people that are like, I don't actually know how to do that. Like, I've heard the phrase of it, but I don't know how to open my heart. And so how I teach is a very technique based way. There's different ways to teach channeling, but that's just the way that I teach it. Because actually the energy body is very, very similar to the physical body in that it's muscular. And if you train the muscles, they're going to be more efficient, more flexible, more capable. The people that are good at channeling, they've worked the muscle, and it's become more fluent because they've worked the muscle. And so the better you get at tuning in and listening, and the stronger the muscle gets, and then the easier it gets, essentially.
Do you think it's also about people like learning to trust in that part of themselves? Because it seems like people kind of know sometimes when they're off, but they get on their head or they go into self-doubt. Like, what would you say helps people to trust in that channeled wisdom that comes through?
Trust is absolutely the thing. That you, for example, I know we're outing you here, but I know, because the conversations we have, how many times you get guidance and you're like, okay, I'm just going to trust it.
Yeah.
And it's guidance about your business. It's guidance about what price to charge. It's guidance about everything in your business. And I know that because we talk about it, because you tell me, because we talk about channeling. And I think the trust, part of it comes from your guides have to prove themselves to you, essentially. And so when you start a divine conversation journey, what happens is your guides will do things that build your trust. And they understand that takes time, and they also understand how important it is that you have trust. And so they are very much there to build the trust, if that makes sense. And ultimately the reason now my guides could, if my guides were like, tomorrow get on a plane to Guatemala, I would do it. But that's because I've had years of building relationship with them and knowing that if they're telling me to get on a plane to Guatemala, it's going to be a really good thing. That I've got years of evidence of them telling me to do something, me not being sure about it, and then it being the right thing. And so that trust is the trust that comes from building a relationship over a long period of time. And the only way you do that is by starting that relationship. It's just like a friendship. At first, you don't trust a friend as much as you do after years of building that relationship. And essentially your guides are your friends in other dimensions. And so, they're really good friends to have and build a relationship with. But there is other things, like one of the things I teach is something called the language of trust. And everybody has a first language out of the 7 languages of trust that exist for humans. And if you can find out what your first language of trust is, then you can really use that to get confirmation about guidance. So, for example, my language of trust is synchronicity, and it isn't a language of trust that is universal. Like, only some people have that as their first language of trust. But for me, honestly, it's because that's the language that I kind of trust the most, even beyond my guide saying something. Very often my guides will say something and I'll be like, I need a sign. And then they have to come up with a really fun sign. Because if I get a sign, I'm all in.
Right. That's so
If I
interesting.
get an unbelievable sign, then I'm all in. And I will do anything the universe tells me, because that's my language of trust. And as soon as I get the sign, my whole system relaxes and I feel reassured. And signs for me have been really in terms of the difficult decisions. I'll give you an example. There was one time I was running a journey to Glastonbury, and my guides said, for the full moon eclipse, you need to go to Avebury. And I was like, okay. Then my partner at the time was like, do you know how far Avebury is from Glastonbury? Like, they are in separate counties. It's like an hour and a half drive or something like that. And I was like, okay, we won't go to Avebury. And then literally everywhere I went, I was getting signs for Avebury. It was just non-stop signs about Avebury, to the point that we went to a motorcycle rally in Brighton that was filled with like 250,000 bikers, and standing in the middle of it was the head druid from Avebury. And I was just like, I think we've got to go to Avebury. And so I made the group drive in the middle of the night all the way to Avebury to do this one ceremony in Avebury. But everybody still years later, people talk about that ceremony because so much magic happened. And it was one of the most magical experiences of my life, and everybody that was there. And had I not had all of those Avebury signs, the logic of mine and my partner's personality self being like, it doesn't make any sense to drive to Avebury when you're in Glastonbury, it's things like that. And that's probably not a very good example of a thing that's shot my business up, but I have many examples that also shot my business, like took my business to the next level because I followed the signs.
Yes. So interesting. And I have so many examples as well, but I feel like it's also being a little bit on the front foot. Like, I think sometimes when we think about the survival mode, like, I've thought how many times my channel's like really protected me in terms of like it kind of through like challenging changes. I was just thinking about COVID time, like, because I followed my channel, I had the most successful year in business. And it didn't make logical sense. But my guide's like, if you follow the guidance, you're going to have your most successful year in business. If you follow your survival brain, you're going to kind of contract and dim and diminish like what wants to happen. That was like a really stark example for me. And I remember thinking, my brain was like, oh my God, like I felt this sort of inner conflict around something almost like a sort of a guilt or a shame. Like, am I allowed to be successful when so many people are going to be really struggling? And there was that kind of inner conflict going on. But my guidance, like, this is your choice. You're here to lead. You're here to sort of lead by example. And, and it was really interesting. Like, I've really witnessed that sort of inner conflict in myself between what I'm being guided to do and some of the, I guess sometimes it's sort of like a counterculture sometimes, or it's the opposite of maybe what my family would do or some friends would do. And I kind of go into this, oh my God, I'm going to follow this channel and potentially get judgment, criticism, kickback, like inner kickback, outer kickback. But I found that, so sometimes I'll go into like this inner conflict and inner tussle, but I usually end up, because I've just learned to trust it. I've learned that when I follow this guidance, better things happen. Things get better, things improve, but it's beyond what my mind can fathom. And it's often the opposite of even like sometimes what my husband thinks or like people that are close to me think. And so I'm then in this sort of inner conflict around being understood or being accepted. But I've just learned to follow it because it's always better. It's always greater. And even like sometimes I've noticed where what I find hard, what my brain finds hard sometimes, is when it's a pivot or a change. So like there's something I've been doing and like this is how we do it. And you kind of get into an established routine. And then it's like it takes you on the path of change, doesn't it? Channeling in business and channeling in life. It's like, okay, another change to adjust to.
Because survival mode is staying the same.
Right. Yeah.
So the nature of survival mode is to stay the same. The nature of the soul is to evolve. And so, in a way, maybe should come with a warning of like, if you want to stay the same, don't learn to channel.
Good warning.
Like, don't. Because, you will very often you receive guidance from spirit. Like I've seen you receive it. I remember when like spirit was like, just stop everything for a year. Do you remember that?
Oh my God. Yes.
I mean, that's so anti what everybody in business would tell you what to do. I remember being so inspired by you in that moment because I was like, she really trusts her guides. I don't know if I trust my guides that much. Like
it was 17 months and in specifically 17 months. And it was incredibly stressful to shut everything down.
And yet it was the right thing to do. And
100%.
what happened from that was our guides see they are helping us fulfill our potential. Mm-hmm. They're not helping us stay the same. They're not, my guides are not particularly compassionate to me staying the same. They're looking after the big picture and they're like, this is the fastest way to get where you want to go. That's what they're giving you is the fastest way to get to where you want to go, the most efficient, most aligned way to get to not even where you want to go because it's beyond.
Yeah.
Like where they want to take you is beyond what you could even imagine. But also they will help you through that. I'm so glad you brought up coronavirus. One of the things that happened to me in December 2019, my guides came through with a message and they were like, do not make any plans for next year. They said, if you plant seeds, you are planting seeds in soil that isn't going to be there. And it will be a waste of money and energy. And I didn't quite listen to that. I'm very good at that. So like I did make plans, which I should, if I'd listened as bravely as you sometimes do, I just wouldn't have made any plans. But I wasn't quite there. So I made plans, but I didn't put any money down on anything. So when everybody come March was like canceling retreats and losing money because they couldn't get refunds for deposits and things like that. Like I just had all this space and all of this money and all of these resources because my guides had literally told me that the soil was not going to be there. And they didn't tell me what was going to happen, but they gave me enough of a pre-warning that meant the transition into what I needed to do during the pandemic was really easy.
Yeah. So interesting. I can think of so many examples like this, right? Because leading up to COVID time, I was getting guided for a number of years to get my business online and I'd been like in person. And so by the time it hit, I was ready to rock. Like I was ready to thrive. And then what's interesting that's been happening, like even this last year, is my guidance was like, right now it's like in person in London. I'm like, wait a minute, I've just built my online business. I'm now in a comfort zone of being online. And now very much it's in-person connection in real life, like running live events, gathering people together. And so it is constantly like innovating and inviting us into change, and that kind of, it's almost like kind of cutting edge, where I kind of like see where the life force is, right? Where the energy is. And it's always kind of pushing up against an edge.
Like I said, guides are not the only way to channel in business. But if you're going to work with guides, they are going to be making sure your business is of optimum service to the collective.
Mm.
And so they're going to be taking you to the edge of what's going on in the collective and making sure that you're offering what's right for people at the time, And yeah, I had a similar guidance. I mean, I was already kind of online, but I really had this push from my guides with the work I was doing in Japan, which was all in person, to go online in 2019, to the point that the company that I was working with refused. And so we left for a smaller company because the guidance was so strong about going online. And it was absolutely the right thing to do, because obviously all the companies in Japan that weren't used to being online had a total meltdown when the pandemic came in. And so all of the work that I was doing in Japan just flowed really easily because this company was already offering online. And what's amazing is that after all those companies went through that, none of them now bring teachers over to Japan. And this is the only company that brings teachers in person. So now because I moved to them initially to go online, I still go and work in Japan because they're the only company that still does it now. And that's actually, when I went over to that company, the head of the company, he was like, let's see your talent. It was one of the scariest moments for me as a channel, because he was just like, show me your talent, which isn't something that you normally get treated. And so I was channeling for him, and my guides, there's a type of channeling called third eye channeling, which I believe is something that you do a lot of, Lara, which is when the guides are speaking to your third eye. And my guides just in my third eye were like, accountant, you need to tell him to go and check his books. His accountant is dodgy. And I was just like, this is like such a scary message to give to like this official person. And so I was just like, okay, you need to check your books. The spirit's saying your accountant is dodgy. And he did. And there had been loads of dodgy stuff going on in the books of their accounts. And, it really, really helped him out. And it was such a not a spiritual thing. It was like, your accounts are dodgy. And like to this day, he's like, you're one of the few channels that has ever actually helped. He's a bit Japanese businessman. He doesn't do much magical thinking, but because that spoke to him and what he cares about, he's got this like respect for me and my guy.
Wow, that's such a cool example. I love that.
And it's like stuff like that. When if I didn't have connection with my guides and a level of trust, because my personality self in that moment was just going, I cannot give him a message about his accounts being dodgy, like every part of me was just terrified to say something like that. It's such a big thing to say. And it's only because I'm a clear channel and I trust my guides. And I have learnt that it's always worth it if they're really pushing something through to do it. And that was years ago. That was 2019. And I still I have an amazing relationship with this company. I still do loads of, what that one moment did for my business is more valuable than any marketing I have ever paid for.
Wow.
In
Wow.
terms of how much money it's brought me, in terms of how global it's made, that's what I mean. Magic instead of marketing
Mm.
is
Very
that
effective.
was so important.
Mm. And I really like also acknowledging the courage it took to speak, because I've had that so many times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling something. I can see something. And like, if I say this, there's going to be kickback, or there's going to be, I have to overcome quite a lot of fear often to not just listen and follow it, but it can be sometimes controversial, or it can be putting a light into something that's maybe a bit defended, or doesn't want to change. And so it's been a real path of a lot, like great courage, right? Really following that heart rather than the desire to, I don't know, be a people pleaser or fit in or whatever comes up. I've been so challenged. I just want to say I'm really challenged by my channel self, like it's constantly asking me to evolve and grow beyond like a comfort zone, I guess. And also it feels like I'm always risking being myself, following my path, which sometimes like brings up fears of like loss maybe, or where I'm attached to things or people. And it always, that survival part can get really activated. And so I just want to acknowledge that, like the courage that it takes to follow and listen. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
It does take courage, especially it's funny, we're talking about Japan again, but when I started teaching people to channel in Japan, they were like, I was teaching them and they were like channeling straight away. And I was just like, why are they so good? Why does it come on so quick? And for a while I was like, Japanese people are just amazing at channeling. And then I got curious and I decided to ask my guides. And I was like, why are they so good at channeling? And my guides said, because so Shintoism, which is Japanese shamanism, it's still there. You can go to a Shinto shrine. It's just part of being Japanese. And the guide said they haven't been persecuted. British people, Western people, magic was persecuted. We've got burning of the witches in our shadow. We've got religious persecution. We've got so much that makes it even harder to feel safe. For a Japanese person, it's really easy for them to say, I'm going for a channeled reading, and this is what the star being said for me to do.
Right.
Whereas it's just a cult, like you get lawyers and doctors and people that in this country, it would be quite strange if they were coming to a channel.
Mm.
But it's normal in their culture. And so I think part of it is that actually, yes, there's the courage thing, but then there's also this big shadow around our magic, essentially, that makes us feel quite tense and like we're going to be persecuted if we say, my guides told me to do this. And that's why I'm doing it. And so there's that extra layer to it. And I think that's what I don't want to go down any rabbit holes, because I don't think it is about rabbit holes, but the systems that we are living in, they can't function if we're in our full magic and our full power, because they're based on us being in survival mode. And they're based on us, not being able to manifest the money, so we have to get into debt. Do you see what I mean? The whole system of the West is based on humans living in survival mode for it to function.
Mm.
And that's why I think there's been this push away from our magic, whether that's conscious or not is something else for people to decide. But our magic is how we break out of systems that don't serve us.
Mm.
And that's why our guides are asking us to be courageous all the time, because they're asking us to break patterns and systems. They're teaching us essentially to become fifth dimensional,
Mm.
and teaching us to become masters of manifesting. They're teaching us to become more evolved human beings than the systems that we were born into and with.
Yeah.
And if you want to be I don't know if you want to be a way shower and somebody that is leading the way of the new earth in the way of doing business. And I don't know how you do that if you don't channel. Because we don't have elders and ancestors and a system from past generations to teach us that. So we have to be taught that by somebody. And the beings that can teach us that are in other dimensions.
Mm.
And so we have to be able to channel them.
Mm.
To
Yeah.
learn, how to not be in survival mode. Humans have been in survival mode for how long?
Long time. Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful because that's exactly what my child has been showing me is like, it's like new systems and structures for how we do finance and how we do business. And it's not about like, rejecting the system, but it's about transforming the system, right? Through really channeling new ways of being. So this has been, it's a beautiful and really important conversation because actually we're being asked to, like you say, evolve, transform our inner systems, outer systems, how we do things, how we do business, how we do life, how we do everything. And there's so much ancient, it's a remembering, isn't it? It's sort of a remembering something very ancient and universal that we've just been disconnected from for a long time. So it's really beautiful, really powerful, a little bit confusing for our brains sometimes, but absolutely amazing if you can have the trust and the courage to listen. So I know that you have an exceptional course and tools and techniques to help people learn how to channel, or people who already channel to become even stronger, better channels. Can you tell us, just for anyone who's interested in learning how to do this, not just in business, but in all areas of life, can you tell us a little bit about your work and your course and how people can find out more if they're inspired and interested in this conversation today?
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, thank you for saying it's a remembering, because I really agree that it is. And I really, 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 our ancestors did learn how to build fire and make medicine through their divine conversation. It is the old way. It's not new age. It's the old way for sure. And yeah, so any learning to channel is a remembering for sure.
Mm.
So my course, I created it because I realized that when I was teaching people to channel in a workshop, I was able to teach them to channel, but then they were going away and they weren't practicing, and then they were coming back and they hadn't improved by the next workshop. And I realized that actually the way to get good at channeling is the way you get good at anything. You have to practice.
Yeah.
And so the course was created as a way to help people to practice. And it's an amazing journey because we have people that are beginners and people that are professional level channels come onto the course. And everybody gets treated exactly the same. The guides are like, everybody is going back to the beginning. and so everybody goes back to the very foundation of channeling, and it's like a musician developing the scales. And then we go from the very beginning to what I would call very, very advanced levels of channeling, like direct voice channeling, dimensional channeling, where you're going off into other dimensions, trance shamanism channeling, where you've got like more than one guide in oneness channeling through you, and things like that. So we go from the very beginning to what I would say is literally fifth dimensional style new earth channeling. And everybody is given exercises. You get an email every day with a magical exercise to practice channeling. And there's the exercises are fun because channeling is really fun. And yeah, there's loads of support and accountability. And I always describe the channeling course as the most magical time of the year, because it's like me and the group are just plummeted into crazy levels of magic and synchronicity and activation. And it's like being in a snow globe of magic. I mean,
So cool.
and I do the course every year. So I do everything that is taught. I do it for myself because it is how I improve my channeling. And honestly, there is stuff that, you know, ultimately there is stuff that people need to learn how to do, like how to open their heart, how to connect with their spirit guides, all of that. But then after that, it's muscular. So the good channels the best channels that you see, they just have a fit enough energy body. You know, after that, after the basics are learned, then it's about how much your energy body can sustain it.
Mm.
And that is where the practice comes in. Like that you cannot learn in a weekend. You have to train your energy body to be able to do. If you want to be able to channel for 3 hours straight, like that's something I do when I lead a workshop. My guides are just non-stop channeling. Your energy body has to be fit enough to be able to do that.
Mm.
The good thing is that the energy body is a lot quicker to train than the physical body. So if you work out your energy body within a few weeks, you're like next level channeling. Because the energy body learns at the speed of light as opposed to the speed of the earth.
Mm. That is so cool. So we're going to put the link to this course beneath this conversation today. And can you tell us a little bit, because if people are interested, they're not sure, they want to kind of get to know you and the work a bit more. Can you tell us a little bit about your other invitation for today?
So the course, I'll say the course is an investment. It's actually a fairly good. It's actually very affordable.
It is.
Given how much channeling helps your, like, there is not one area of my life that channeling hasn't helped me with. It's helped me with relationships, with health, with money, with business. Like, given how much channeling helps you, and given how much this course, if you follow it, will teach you how to channel. I've never seen it not work.
Mm.
The only time I've seen it not work is if people don't follow the process as guided. If you don't do it, then I can't help you.
Yeah.
But if you do it, then you will be channeling by the end of it. Or next leveled by the end of it. And it is really good value. I think it's probably too cheap, but my guides are saying to keep it at the price that it is because they want to help people learn how to channel because it's so important.
Yeah.
And so it is really good value. but it is an investment, and it's also a time investment, although it's a very yang course. Like you're just in the energy and you have the time manifest. It's not one of those courses where you have a problem having the time to do it. It's one of those courses that just works with everything else you're doing. But if you're not sure about the investment, then I'm doing something I'm super excited about, actually. It's the first year I've done it, and it's a 4-day by donation introduction to how we can improve our divine conversation. Because our divine conversation is something that we're always doing. Even if you don't know you're doing it, like we said at the beginning, you're still in conversation all the time with your path, the universe. It's how we're communicating. And I realized actually that my divine conversation had got a bit like a delivery order. A bit like, come on, universe. Like a bit like just unconscious, like a bit Western in the sense of like McDonald's-y, like I just want it now, demanding. And I suddenly realized that actually our divine conversation is a really sacred thing, and our heart, the universe, our path, these are really sacred sacred things, and that actually part of the way of not being in survival mode but being in soul mode is to have a more beautiful divine conversation. And so these 4 days it's called Love Letters to the Universe, and it's like, how do we make our divine conversation less Deliveroo and more roomy? And see how that does. See what that does for our paths, because the divine conversation is the conversation of our path. And that's all I know about it. The guides are going to channel the rest, but I know there will be techniques, and also there'll be energy mechanics, there'll be techniques, there'll be things that come from the channeling course, and new things that just allow people to understand what it's like to be in that amazing cocoon of magic that is evolving your divine conversation.
Amazing. And I know that these buy donation options are immensely powerful as well, because I've experienced them before, as well as your course, which is very, very accessible on the investment level and hugely powerful. I've experienced Kahreela's work personally, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I would like to say I am very, very fussy about who I work with on the energetic realm. And Kahreela is just an exceptional channel and space holder. And I don't say that lightly. I've been in this game for over 20 years. And so I just want to say that thank you for bringing in such beautiful, beautiful work at such a high level, and for doing the work, because, the human you is really going through it too, right? You're living and breathing it. You're not just channeling it and then, you're really integrating it through your body and through your life. And I think that's what makes it so profound as well. So thank you so much for all the work that you do in the world. And thank you so much for coming and bringing your experience and your channeled wisdom and the joy of it and the play. Because even though it's intense, it's also so magical and beautiful and playful and fun, right? As well as
so fun. Like, that's the thing. I cannot tell you how many times to this day I've taught people to channel for 10 years. I've been a channel for years. And to this day, when my guides say something's going to happen and then it comes true, I still have like a little dance of like, oh my God, magic's real. You know, like it's, I just, I'm like, magic life makes life so,
Mm,
that's the thing, it adds magic.
yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to add magic to your business and your life? But Lara, I want to know, how are you feeling being outed?
I'm fine. I think I've been outing myself. No, it's great. I'm actually quite glad because it's easier just to talk straight up, right? And just to share my unusual approach to everything I do, because like you, I don't just channel in business. I channel in my marriage. I channel in my body. I channel how I parent my children. I channel around friendship. I channel around everything, every problem, and which there's plenty in life, right? And conundrums. I channel, like when I make sure I do, it's always like I do sometimes resist and sometimes like fight it a little bit. Like I have objections, and I'm like not always the easiest to get through to sometimes, but it's always frigging right and incredible and amazing. And it's like I'm blown away by what I've managed to build and create in my life because of it. I'm so freaking I don't actually know how to live without it now, to be honest. And I don't know how anyone does live without
I
it.
don't know how anyone does. Like, I'm like, life would be so hard without this.
So hard.
So, and same. I wouldn't work with somebody that wasn't as talented a channel as you. Like, I am not interested in working with people that cannot bring through energy and guidance that I feel like can help me to the next level. And you are phenomenal. You're a phenomenal channel. You're an amazing channel. Your channel is the reason why I love being in your containers and working with you. And that's why I'm so happy that you're out. Like,
it's so funny because I was saying when I explain what I do, like I've been a healer and I'm the wealth accelerator, and I was like, Kahreela, like, and I channel too. Kahreela's like, I know you channel. But I don't say that I'm a channel, right? I don't lead on that. I sometimes do, but it's just funny because I have been channeling the whole time without really telling people I channel. So thank you, Kahreela, for outing me as a channel.
But also, here's the other thing I wanted to say. You also need friends that can channel. Like, that's what I'm learning is because as you get better with your, if you're like me, and it sounds like you, I'm also so good at not listening to my guys. And then when I was in Bali recently, and I went to Bali to rest, like I was guided to go and rest in Bali. Yeah. I wasn't resting because I was like, Bali's really fun. So I was like off at waterfalls and things like that. And my friend contacted me, who's a really good channel, and she was like, Kahreela, Spirit is contacting me to tell you that you are not resting enough. And she's like, Spirit is saying that Spirit says Bali, they know Bali's really fun, but you are not in Bali. You are not in Bali to be having fun. You're in Bali to rest. And if you don't rest now, there's going to be an intervention that's going to make you rest. And you're not going to like that. And I was like, I don't want the intervention.
Oh my gosh.
And so I rested. And honestly, the integration that I got, because I finally listened and rested, was amazing. I feel like it took me to the next level.
Yeah.
It just made me suddenly go, oh, we don't just need to channel, we also need our poor spirit guides are like, if only she'd listen. The lengths they go to.
Oh my God. It's so true, and that's so funny. You're being spied on by your spirit guides. They're watching us. And it's true, I do too. I need people that I can really trust. Again, it's like building that trust that can help me too, because we get in our own way sometimes. We need each other. And this is why, we can do a lot on our own, but why it's so important to invest in someone like Kahreela who can hold space for you, because even when you know how to do it, like I want to come and do Kahreela's course too. I've been channeling for like 20 years. But it's like having someone that can hold space for you to really listen and really expand into that next level. It's so freaking powerful. So,
and also the final thing I'll say, this channeling course is the one course where everybody in it, so everybody gets daily space holder support. You get a space holder with you every day. Like, that's the level of holding that happens. But also everybody plugged into my energy, so they actually get to like be milked on my energy, and so they get to so they get loads of vitamins of magic from my energy, which doesn't happen on any other course.
Very cool.
It's a cool addition.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much once again for this conversation. It's been lots of fun. Thank you for outing me. And thank you for all the great offers you've got coming up. So if you're interested in finding about Kahreela's channeling course, visit the link below. Or if you want to come and just have a little taster of her work, the link for that is below as well. And we'd love to hear from you what has inspired you or interested you from today's conversation. So visit link below and message us. We'd love to hear what lands for you, or send a comment in below as well. So thanks once again, Dawn. Have a beautiful rest of the day.